Hi there! In this week's episode, we're going to be looking at applied strength for dance and what that means. So like I suggested before, strength is actually a little bit different to hypertrophy. Strength is all about a healthy nervous system. Our muscles are orchestrated from the nervous system alone. So when we want to look at things like neuromotor stability or neuromotor control, we're looking at a pathway that comes from the brain and to the muscle. Now, the brain recognizes movement, not muscles. So if I'm, let's say, going to look at my watch, my brain is going to recognize this movement pattern. When we start to learn something, we use the muscles, and we may use too many of them and maybe too many motor units as well. And then as we practice, we become incredibly efficient at that motor pattern. This can be called a motor engram, or you might know it as muscle memory. So we become incredibly efficient. The body is inherently lazy, and it actually doesn't want to expend much energy doing things at all. It wants to conserve energy in case it needs it for a scary event to help keep you alive. So when we're looking at strength training, we're actually bringing into play better neuromotor pathways. And within your body then, you feel strong. So when we're looking at feeling strong in the body, we're looking at creating better neuromotor pathways. If you remember when you first did your first pirouette, it would have been quite wobbly all over the place, using lots of muscles to do it. And then as you practice, that pathway gets laid down, you have better neuromotor patterning, and your pirouette feels really easy, to the point where you can actually manage more than one. When we're training the dancer, we want to be looking at good neuromotor control. This also feeds into stability training. So that's stability training within the hip, the core and pelvic region, shoulders, and even the neck as well. Fascial lines. Wow, this forms the basis of all our treatment and movement nowadays. The fascial web gives you your whole shape. Within it, we have fascial lines, coined, and we follow a gentleman called Thomas Myers, who really opened this up for us as therapists. Fascial lines refer to the muscles that connect together, a little bit like a long row of sausages. So one muscle isn't a single unit, it's connected by this fascial web to every other muscle within the body. When we're looking at creating strength and movement, we want to be considering these fascial lines. When we look at training stability through the core and the hips, we're looking at some dynamic myofascial slings that come in, connect with something called force closure to help give you stability yet movement within the system. So when we're looking at strength training, it's really important to consider these long lines and tracts of muscles and how they work with each other. We then have something that we call shape strength. Now, this is really exciting because it's about tensioning the fascial web, which is another way that we can create strength within the body. We have some lovely connections that run from the foot through to the pelvic floor. We have other shape strength connections that run from the finger pads all the way through a fascial line on the front of the arm to the shoulder. And you can feel these fascial lines connecting in. So shape strength is about creating resiliency within the fascial web. The fascial web gets a little bit stronger when we connect our muscles or activate them. This is a term called the hydraulic amplifier effect. So when our muscle tissue activates and gets wider, it tensions the fascial web around it and can create this sense of solidity or tensile strength within the body. And that's shape strength. 3D movement. 3D, 3 directions. This forms the basis of everything. Your body is a 3D dynamic being. Your joints move in 3D, your muscles are all aligned in 3D. No muscles are just aligned in parallel series. So what are these 3 directions? Well, we have a forwards and a back direction. This is sagittal plane. We have a side to side direction. This is frontal plane. And then we have a rotatory one. This is transverse plane. Now, although these are quite big words to get your head around, it's really important to understand the concept that 3D movement exists. If we don't move well in one of these spectrums, then we're more likely to have an injury within our body. And our training and strength training really wants to focus on all of these movement patterns so that we get a robust body, strong tissues, we feel strong, and ultimately we reduce the chance of injury. In the final episode, I'll be introducing you to the 4Q system, which is a really nice, easy way to work out how you're going to train, to put as much variability into your strength training program as possible, and therefore creating a nice, strong, healthy body.